The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. My name is John Skees, and I am the Director of Media for TAPPS. Thank you for joining us this morning for the next in our series of eSports webinars. We're going to get started in a few minutes, but I've got a couple of housekeeping items to address before we do. So first things first, this webinar is being recorded. You're going to get an email tomorrow to the account that you registered for this webinar. It's going to have a link to this recording. We've got a bunch of webinars this week, so it's just taking longer to process these recordings and get them up. So thank you for your patience there. Second, if you have any questions, please use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar interface. We're going to try to answer those as we go, but if we don't get to them right away, don't worry, there is a Q&A at the end. If email is easier for you, you can send any questions to info@tapps.biz. We're keeping an eye on that inbox, and we're going to pass those questions on to our presenters. But if we don't get to your question today, if we run out of time or if it's just too specific to answer appropriately in this venue, please send us an email, again, info@tapps.biz, or call us at the office, and we will direct you best we can. Joining us today from the TAPPS office is Steve Prudhomme, TAPPS Associate Director, Vina Williams, our Director of Fine Arts, and Will Dixon, our broadcast specialist. He's helping us out today behind the keyboard. And from Play Versus, we've got James Kay, Market Manager, and we have a special guest, Robbie Hernandez, eSports coach at Thomas Jefferson High School in San Antonio. He's going to be speaking to you a little bit later. Before I hand it over to Steve, I've got one question, real quick, a quick poll for everybody in attendance. We would like to know what your role on your campus is. You could just vote real quick. All right, 100% voted. I'm going to close this poll and hand it over to Steve.
Well, good morning to everyone. We're excited to have another chapter in our eSports webinar series heading in. And again, we're very excited about this program and adding this activity. And when we brought eSports in, they said, well, you can make it athletics or fine arts. And I said, by putting it as fine arts, it gives us a little bit more freedom and agility to be able to grow the sport the way we want to. And that also means it's under our Director of Fine Arts, Ms. Vina Williams. So Ms. Vina Williams will take it from here.
Thanks, Steve. Once again, we are looking forward to starting the eSports with a partnership with Play Versus this year. We hope that our schools can connect with their students on a different level. We know that they're playing video games, and this is a great opportunity to build those relationships within your school. I just want to say thanks for joining us today, and James will take it from here.
Well, great. Thank you to the TAPPS office, and thank you to everybody for spending time with us this morning to go ahead and learn about esports and try to figure out how it's going to work, or if it's going to work on your campus, and honestly just make sure that we can make sure that these students get access to their passion and can really kind of push that forward. So I'm James. I've been working with Play Versus and doing things in esports for quite a while. Did work with everybody from the collegiate sports side to the high school sports, but mainly focusing entirely on esports and how that kind of blends together over here in LA. But been working really closely with all of these schools in Texas for the last year and a half, and really excited and happy to bring along one of my colleagues here, Mr. Robbie Hernandez from San Antonio ISD. And Robbie, if you can give us a short introduction about yourself.
Sure, thank you, James. I'm a coach and teacher at Jefferson High School in San Antonio. I've been part of esports in schools for about 5 years, playing on my collegiate StarCraft 2 team. So I'm really excited to be here and answer any questions that might come up.
Hey, Robbie, if I knew you played that game, I would have challenged you to a match already. But to kind of get into that a little bit, so thinking about these games and kind of what it looks like on campus right now. So just kind of as a broad overview, again, we've talked about this in the webinars, but esports is this idea of playing in an organized, structured way, but playing video games together as a unit. So think of it less as a few students just kind of going and doing their own thing, but bringing them together, having that shared space, and allowing them to compete as a unit, as a team, to really go ahead and pull things forward. So from there, we've got a number of games that, we're going to be having competitions in. And with that, these students will be playing against other TAPPS schools and potentially even other schools in Texas, in general. But, we've chosen some of the most competitive games and games that, the students are going to be really excited about. So the first one there is a game called League of Legends. So, we've chosen a number of games that, are super, super exciting to the students, games that these students, they're already playing at home, they already know about, and, are already really competitive. So the first is going to be a game called League of Legends that is teams of 5 students getting together. They'll each have their own individual roles in the game. Think of it kind of like basketball. I got a game called Rocket League, which is, as it sounds, you're using these rockets, but you're basically a car that has a rocket strapped to it, and you're playing soccer. Then we got Fortnite. Everybody's heard about Fortnite. So, we're going to turn that into a team sport rather than just playing solos and individuals. But, we'll have teams of 3 get in and, kind of duke it out and see who wins. And then we got a game called Smite that's going to be teams of 5. And then recently, forgot to add it to this list, but we have a game called Overwatch, which will be teams of 6. So there's a lot of games that are out there that the students are going to be really excited about, and that's we're going to be really happy to offer that to them. You can have more students or less students in any or all of these games. If you've got 7 kids that all play League of Legends, you can have those teams of 5. You can swap out some students. If you've got students that want to play both Rocket League and League of Legends, cool, great. They can play on both teams. It really comes down to their dedication, their time, and I mean, think of these games like different sports. So we've already talked about how to get started and what this all looks like pretty in depth in the past, but I want to kind of do a little bit of a speed run and get a little bit of our coach here's perspective on some of these things. So signing up, hit the TAPPS website. You're going to see information about esports under fine arts. There's going to be a ton of information there and effectively, some registration sign up forms that gets the information right into Vina's hands. So, she'll be able to make sure that you're all good to go and that you're all signed up correctly. Playversus side, www.playversus.com. So PLAYVS.com. Hit the website. You're going to see a big orange button that says get started or press here to coach, or I want in or something. It'll be pretty easy. You just kind of walk through there. Honestly, you're probably going to get an email or a phone call from me once you sign up. So it'll be a pretty smooth process from there. So we'll kind of speed run through some of these, but this idea of how do you get approval to actually go through and actually do this. So, with that, one more poll coming up here, do you currently have a gaming or an esports or any sort of, on-campus club that is devoted to games or video games?
About half of you have voted. I'll leave this open for just a few more seconds. Good.
Thank you, John.
All right, couple more votes coming in. All right, I'm going to close that down and hand it back to James.
Perfect. John, how's it looking in terms of numbers there?
So right now we're seeing 11% have a gaming club. This is 82% voted. 11% have a gaming club. 11 have a program already, a competition program already, but most aren't sure.
Great. No, that is amazing. And this idea, we didn't have just on not unsure, but we also had like a no, right?
Yes, we had a no.
No. Well, that's honestly, that's great because we know that the students, I mean, they're interested in this, they're playing this, but yeah, it's trying to understand, how do we take this activity that the students are doing at home and how do we bring that on campus so that you can oversee it? So and where are the benefits and why would we even do that? So kind of getting into esports education and how it blends together. We've talked about this a lot already in past webinars, but I want to throw this right back at you one more time. You're able to build that sense of community. You're able to kind of develop your students and be able to kind of provide that mentorship, scholarships. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of universities that offer scholarships to play esports. just the same way that you get a D1 basketball scholarship. It embodies a lot of these like state standards like ISTE or like Common Core and some of these other, basically it embodies a lot of these like standards that you would find in curriculum. And yeah, I mean, there's a huge connection between esports and STEM. Before doing Play Versus and everything like that, I used to be a researcher focusing on, what positive benefits are there for having an on-campus esports club, and this is really it. Like higher GPAs, we saw more interested in STEM, took more AP classes, like things that you'd want to see in a student as they kind of go forward. But on top of that, that's the academic and education side. But you are fostering these students, and I'm going to say I know that a large percent of the students that are within an esports program that we've seen in the past, they don't come to traditional sports. They don't come to even fine arts. They don't go to like any of these other activities on campus. They're kind of that lost student, right? So you have the opportunity to connect with them and bring them on campus, which a huge benefit there. I want to at least throw up some, like I mentioned, scholarships and universities. I want to at least let you see some of these logos so that it kind of drills in that these are places that students can go, get a scholarship, and actually play on behalf of the university. So it's from basically all corners of the state, and that's just in Texas. So we've got one more quick poll here. So if we can get that one going.
There we go. Are your students playing video games when they're at home? 50% voted so far. Give it a few more seconds. Get some more votes in. All right, I'm going to close that one. Back to you, James.
Perfect. So honestly, I don't even have to see the answer to that poll to know what the answer is, because truthfully, the answer is almost always yes. But even more so, like we don't know what that activity, or we typically don't know what that activity looks like at all. Like we know that they're out there playing, they're playing Fortnite, they're playing League of Legends, they're playing these games already. But we now have the opportunity to say, okay, these students that are playing, let's bring it on campus, and then we're going to have someone like Coach Robbie Hernandez here oversee that activity, be able to kind of dive into like this is okay, this isn't okay, and really be able to grow and mentor these students, and that's where all of the benefits to esports comes into. But the question on everybody's mind is like, how do we get started? What does it look like day to day? Like, what am I actually doing? Well, again, we've talked about some of these, so I'm going to speed through some of these slides, but I really want to get into the nitty gritty on like what the league looks like, what you're going to be doing, etc. So we'll throw in some of these, and then we'll kind of go from there. So at the very beginning, we, Play Versus here works with the National Federation of State High School Associations, of which TAPPS is a member. So we're able to kind of provide esports as a sanctioned sport or activity for a lot of students. So you're kind of competing pretty close to the same trophy that you're going to get for football, baseball, basketball, but for esports, right? Which is going to be really inspiring for the students, and show them that their passion for this is completely okay and something that they should be happy and excited about. From there, we're gonna have 2 seasons. One of them is gonna be in the fall, one in the spring. I'm gonna get into real specifics on this on another slide, but from there, we're gonna have weekly matches. You're able to have multiple teams in these games. You can kind of see where you rank against other TAPPS schools and other schools in the state, and then we're gonna get into a playoffs that'll be single elimination, pretty easy. No travel at this time. Eventually we want to get to the point where maybe we have some sort of an in-person state championship, but yeah, everything's pretty easy. We'll be able to walk you through the process without having too much of a problem. From there, try to understand what's going on in your IT department. You're gonna have to get the games unblocked if you're playing on campus. We're also allowing for remote play, so it really depends on what your school is going to be doing in the next month or so as we start getting into school. All of this, feel free to reach out to me. We can go over it in depth. Link me with an IT guy. We'll make it happen. Not a problem. And then from there, trying to understand what does this program actually look like. So I'll give a little bit of a spiel here, and then Robbie from San Antonio ISD will give a little bit of a perspective on how he got the program started over there. But in my mind, there's a few things that you gotta immediately take into consideration. Is one, how many students are interested, what games are they interested in, and what do they look like, how passionate are they, and things like that. Second is, do you have a computer lab on the campus? And if so, how many computers are in there, and how many students can you kind of be able to control without the organized chaos happening. And these games run on a wide variety of machines. I mean, I've got some schools that are running on 10-year-old Dell computers, so it's pretty easy on that side. And then lastly is some of these games are going to be on different days. So Tuesday through Thursday, there'll be different games going on each day, so that we can reuse those computers, or effectively we can make sure that students can play in multiple titles. So with that, how many coaches do you have available? Do you just have the one, and are they only free on certain days, or do you have somebody that's able to oversee this activity on multiple days? But Robbie, if you want to take a minute and just kind of give your perspective on how did the program get started over there, how do you understand what's too much, or what's needed to make a really strong program?
Sure. So my program started basically by students coming to me, and I shared in class that I really like Pokemon, and so I became like the Pokemon teacher, and then students were like, oh, this guy likes games, and so they were like, hey, can we put on a Smash tournament in your room? And we had 50 students show up for that, and teachers show up for that. And it basically kind of just stayed with that over the years. And then this past year, I was like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to keep doing this. It takes a lot of time and commitment and you have to wear a lot of different hats, teaching and coaching. And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make it legit. I want it to be a real sport, because I know how big esports is. Scholarships are popping up everywhere for colleges, as James mentioned. And then this is becoming a career path, not only just for players, but also for broadcasters and shot callers and things like that, and coaching. So I wanted to make that available to all of my students, and make that competitive edge. So I reached out to my principal first. I was like, can we go with this? And he was like, oh yeah, I heard about a 14-year-old kid who just got $1 million in Fortnite. I was like, yes, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. And then so then after I got his approval, I basically reached out to my district, and I'm in a pretty large district with 7 comprehensive high schools, and it's very difficult to get through your IT and then getting it up to the board. But eventually, superintendents are hearing about this, and so I just put out a ticket to my help desk. I was like, how can I get this started at my school? And it basically took me my first semester to get everything unblocked and stuff. But I now have a direct line with my IT department in my district to basically VIP support staff right now. But after our success playing in the spring, I know that consistently we're going to have about 25 students. That's the way we were in the spring, and I anticipate that to increase with more games. We focused on League of Legends and Rocket League and Playverse, and then on the side we had a lot of Super Smash Brothers, which I'm still pushing Playverse to unlock for us. But the students are playing. I had an information session, and then we had probably about 75 students in my school show up, which is no small number. That's larger than our football program right now. And when you look at it like that, you're realizing like these are students that aren't in football, they're not playing in bands, they're not usually involved in other things, as James pointed out. So in my computer lab, I have 25 computers. Right now, I'm the only coach, but I've had other teachers express interest. Like, I know a lot about Super Smash Brothers, which is great because I can only throw arrows out as Link. Like, I don't know every game, and that's fair because I've basically, starting this program, I've basically become like an athletic director where you don't have to know every sport, but you have to get the people who do. And not only that, I'm encouraging students to take the roles as coaches, as captains, as like marketing managers, people who are putting out information, and I'm tying that into my classes. So it's becoming not just a club or an activity. It's becoming like it's becoming part of my classes. It's becoming part of our campus, part of our campus identity. Our board is putting out messages about the opportunities that esports are bringing to our students in our district in San Antonio. So overall, it's just, I mean, it is a huge time commitment, but the equipment's there, and the desire is there from your students. So that's all, like, I just feed off of that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for kind of giving that perspective. And I'd like to reiterate that, when we think and talk about like a coach for an esports program, don't think of somebody that is, like the football coach or the baseball coach or things like that, they know the plays and how everything works. This is much more, as Robbie said, a kind of like a director, somebody that's able to make sure that we're able to get the resources in the right way, make sure that everybody's in the places that they need to be, and being able to empower people on your campus to be able to make this happen. And that may even be, as Robbie said, some of these student leaders that are being built up too. So there's a lot of opportunities, and that kind of gets into the really quick, how do you actually build a program? Of course, get the word out. When I think about, when I get into a call with somebody and they say, we want to do this, I'll ask them, how many students do you expect are going to show up to your first meeting? And they'll tell me 5, 10, whatever the number is. And I just tell them to triple that number. And that's what you're really going to expect. And they always come back, I had 30, I had 40 kids, or, whatever it ends up being. So there is excitement, and then you're going to have to try to, facilitate that. I won't get too deep into these other points here. We've talked about them in the past webinar, but feel free to always reach out to myself, and I can really give you a deep dive on how all that works. And something I wanted to also reiterate that Robbie said is, taking your program to the next level. Having the students playing in weekly matches and getting it all set up is amazing, and maybe we can win a TAPPS championship here through that. But how do you get those students involved that aren't competitive, that still want to be a part of your club and your environment? It really comes down to allowing those students to be a part of this in other ways. So think going through and building up the graphics, working on broadcasting, trying to find some way to connect them to STEM and careers, really. The gaming industry is larger than Hollywood and the music industry combined. So there's a lot of jobs, careers, and future for your students if they're going to be doing that. Gliding by the resources again, the TAPPS website is the source for anything TAPPS related, esports wise. You can go on there, and under the fine arts department, you're going to see esports or play versus. Just go ahead and give that a click, and you should see a bunch of really curated resources there. On the play versus website, there's the Be a Coach link, which basically just, you'll see it at the very front of the website. Press a button, you're in, you're going through, you're signing up. Super simple. And then we've got this Play versus Academy going on too, which, if you go under the resources tab, you're going to see a little, maybe 45-minute to an hour long training that you can take that I know that most of the TAPPS staff is already certified through, but pretty easy to do. You get a little certificate at the end. it gives you a good perspective of what the games look like to really going into depth. The newest resource that I want to mention is, super coaches. So these are coaches that are within the state of Texas who just know a lot about esports games. You can use them as a resource. We have one that is actually from a TAPPS school, the British International School of Houston, who has been doing an amazing job and probably one of the the best people in the state that I've talked to about esports. So their expertise, TAPPS, building a winning program. He's built a really strong coaching culture at the campus. So taking students that think they're pretty good to actually going on and winning. And we've got Robbie from San Antonio ISD. He knows how to work with administrators like no one else. So if you ever run into an issue where trying to figure out why you should do it, how you should do it, how you roll things out, the IT department, everything like that, he's the person for it. Their information is going to be on the Play Versus website. You'll see some of it under, well, I guess you'll see some of it under the TAPPS website that you can kind of go and click through. Lastly is Rick Allen from Liberty ILO ISD. I mean, middle of the Texas-Arkansas border, but he has had an incredible time being able to take this group of students that didn't have a place and really make sure that this is theirs. So and then here's where we're really going to get into the meat of things. This webinar is, what does this look like? How do we make it happen? Where are all of the insights and information, everything like that? So honestly, we're going to get into weekly matches. So every week, we'll have matches on different days. So you see, Fortnite and Smite will be on Mondays, League of Legends on Tuesdays, Overwatch on Wednesdays, and Rocket League on Thursdays. You do not need to compete in all of those. If you're only free and you only have someone to oversee this activity on Tuesdays, then that's the day that you'll be able to go over everything. So you can have as many people in as many or as few games as you feel comfortable. And yeah, it really comes down to you and the student interest. So these weekly matches, how it'll work is, the students will log into the Play Versus website. They'll go to the website. They'll see, okay, we're going to play against British International School today. There'll be a few more buttons that they click, and then boom, they're right in there and they're ready to go. But it also comes down to who are these students and how are they involved? A game like I'll put Rocket League out where it's teams of 3. You can have, say, if you have 7 students that show up and they all want to play Rocket League, you can build those 2 teams that have a substitute player, and that substitute player can kind of swap into these these 2 teams and kind of take over when the students are busy or they've got homework that night or something else is happening that really prevents them from being able to do their best. We are also going to be allowing remote play this season. I know a lot of schools are definitely running into some issues there, and it sounds like from talking with the TAPPS staff that a lot of schools are going to have remote options for their students, or they're going to have some way to be more of a hybrid system. As long as you're able to get in touch with these students, oversee them, and make sure that these students are getting the information that they need, and you're still providing that mentorship, then you can get that done remotely. It'll take something like a Google Hangouts, a Zoom. There's in the video game world, there's something called Discord that they can use to kind of communicate. But setting something up is the go-to. That really gets into what does this actual season look like? When is it? Everything like that. We're going to have a regular season, so the first sanctioned matches are going to happen in October, but we're going to have kind of a preseason for you to try to get everything ready as soon as this upcoming September. So working with your colleagues on campus, reaching out to students and trying to get the word out early is your best bet. And then you're able to develop a program based off of what the students are saying. Again, you've got a bunch of students that come to you saying League of Legends is our game. Well, we can build a program around that and get everything started. And we're gonna have 2 seasons a year, one in the fall, one in the spring. So the one in the fall, weekly matches, and then we'll get into a playoffs that will happen in like December. And then before you get into leave for winter break, we'll crown a TAPPS champion. Same deal going on in the spring. We're starting in February. We'll run until the end of the school year itself. Having some sort of a championship before y'all get out of school. And then from, to kind of give a little bit more perspective here, Robbie, if you want to kind of give a little bit of an idea of what a match day looked like for you and your students, what the excitement looked like, and kind of give that day-to-day perspective, that'd be super helpful for everybody here.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in here because we have 4 games listed or 5 games listed here, but in my school we've only competed in League of Legends and Rocket League, and I hadn't even heard about Rocket League until February. So like it was still a brand new game to me. But as your programs evolve, you're going to be holding practice pretty much every day. And so the way it looks like is like my team show up Monday through Friday. And if they can't make it one day, like that's cool. But like on Monday we're practicing, we're scouting the team for League of Legends on Tuesday to see like, okay, who's going to be the carries, like who's going to do what. We're going to look at their previous champions. So like we make this as official as possible, which is what like my goal always was, to become like an official thing, just like you would do in baseball, football, soccer, whatever. And then Tuesday my students would log into the Playverse platform, and they'll get a code on their account to load into League of Legends. There are instructions on that. We would practice that, and then we would play our matches. League of Legends is that's 2 games, right, James? I think that's just 2 games. So you play 2 games, and then like you can either win both. You could split them one and one. It's kind of like like you get more points for as many games as you win. And then Rocket League was best of 5, I believe. And so on Thursdays, like the same thing. Wednesdays, my players would show up. We would start scouting for like, okay, who do we need to worry about? Is this like what do we need to practice on in our own game? And then Friday for both of my teams, we would do VOD review. Like from our League of Legends match, we would do exactly what you would do in football, soccer, whatever. You would go and review your own film, and you would talk about, okay, what does that look like? Like, what should we have done here? What was good about these plays? Same thing in Rocket League. Like, we just pull up the replays and we just go over it. Like, okay, we talk about it. We get every player's perspective about like what they were thinking. And like, I mean, that's building the community with your players. It's building your program to become what it officially should be. And then, yeah, just like on game days or any other thing, like my students, my players, they show up nervous. Like we have to calm down. I have to have a team meeting and just like, all right, you guys are going to go in there. You practiced this before. You know exactly what the plays we're going to execute and how they should work. Just relax, play our game. You give them that pep talk, and then you calm your players down. It's not like they're used to when they're playing at home alone. It's not going to be like that, because when you have people relying on you to do what you need to do, it's a completely different game.
No, that's great. And that's kind of an example of a program that is fairly mature, run by somebody that has a lot of experience of esports, and a good idea of like how these games are working themselves. This is all going to come down to what you want to make the program, and how what the students want to do with this program too. So it can be as much as you only plan a few games, but you're really digging deep into those, and maybe even coming in for practice on other days, or it could be as simple as you've got 5 students, they already kind of have an idea of how this works, and they only want to play League of Legends, and you're around and available to make this happen from your side. Maybe the example of issues that will come up. in a situation like that is, maybe the opponent team is, missing and they're not available right now because, something's happening, or, they just didn't show up into the game. So we'll give you the tools to be able to reach out to that opposing team and, be able to kind of troubleshoot the issues and kind of work together. Think you show up to the football field and, the opposing team isn't there yet, right? Pretty easy to just, call them up and, see where the bus is at. So, so that gives a really broad overview. And I think with that, I'd love to talk with the TAPPS group here, and see, is there any questions that have come in, or things that we should definitely talk about here while we're on this topic?
We've got one question about price structure, but I think that's your next slide. And we have one other question. Is Play Versus going to make coach communication mandatory?
Yeah, so you won't have to, it's not going to be required that you reach out to the opposing coach, but it will be required that there is somebody on your campus that is able to oversee esports and be available if something were to happen. So, imagine, that not being able to show up, or, somebody's having IT issues or something like that. The goal is when the students are ready, they get into that game lobby, i.e. they go to the field, and more than likely, the other team is, going to have a few students on that field ready to go. We'll have an idea of, what's happening. And then from there, any issues, the coaches, should be available to send out an email or pick up the phone to be available to, troubleshoot. So.
I mean, and that's just like any TAPPS sport. Coaches really should be in communication before a match, just in case any issues come up. So.
Yeah, from my perspective, when I was looking at the schedule, the schedule shows like the other coaches' information. And so I would shoot out a quick email at the beginning of the week, usually on Monday, and just say like, hey, we're going to play you on this day, or do you foresee any problems going on? Maybe we would have to reschedule. And then on match day, if we were ever having trouble connecting, like I could always call or text that coach and be like, hey, I'm running into technical issues right now. We'll be up in 10 minutes, or talking to Playverse or IT or something like that.
And we're also going to give you the information about who you're playing against. We do it on blocks of like three people at a time, or 3 opponents at a time. So when you first get in there, you're going to know who for the next 3 weeks who you're playing against. I always say once you have an idea of who you're playing against, over that kind of block period, just shoot them an email. Just kind of introduce yourself. I mean, do what you would do if you're talking to a coach of another sport. So I also see a question here about are they allowed to use controllers and things like that rather than just a keyboard and mouse? Absolutely. Most of these games, or a lot of these games, a controller would be beneficial. You think of something like Fortnite, something like Overwatch, or League or Rocket League. Some of these games, a controller wouldn't make sense, like League of Legends or Smite. So just, kind of keep that in mind, but we don't have any band equipment or things like that. It all comes down to what the students, want to do and what works best for them. So we were mentioning pricing and costs as another question that came up. So we do have various levels of access within the Play Versus website. The first is, we have a premium a premium pass that kind of covers everything on an annual basis. Any game that you see on that pass list, you're able to play in, no issues. You'll get like dedicated support, a bunch of stuff to, we'll help you get jerseys and stuff like that too. So there's a lot going on. That comes out to, it's kind of capped out at around $2,000 for the entire year. But if you have a small program, reach out to me directly. I can make sure that whatever price that we're get you in for esports makes sense for you as a school. Because I know that there's schools out there that maybe they only have 5 or 6 students that realistically would be able to meet that time commitment. The second is we have this setup of like a 1-game pass. You want to play just have a League of Legends team for the year, great. We'll be able to provide you with a pricing around that. That's typically around $700, $800 for the entire year. You can have as many teams as you want in that game. And then lastly, we do have a free option. So we have 2 game titles that are free, and you're able to kind of hop on in and not have to worry about any like registration or league fees or things like that. And that's going to be Rocket League, that teams of 3 game, and Fortnite, which is those duos or trios of students. So there is kind of something across the board to make sure that it's all good for you. But definitely, if price is ever an issue for you and your school, reach out to me directly. I have a kind of a fund that I use for schools that have high or low, from low socioeconomic standing, and then I have another for like Title I schools, which any way that I can kind of make sure that students are able to do this, more than happy to do it. Which gets into this idea of maybe you want to start earlier, maybe you want to get started pretty quickly, and you kind of want to make sure that your students are ready for this upcoming year. We actually do have a little side event that we're going to do over this summer. It's going to start in about 2.5 weeks or so, and it's only going to be for 2 weeks. Just playing in some pretty easy, quick matches. We even put a little bit of pricing behind it, so you can maybe win a free play versus a season, or you can win like a gaming chair, or you can win a bunch of different small things that kind of we donate to the school. I think at the very top, we'll be giving away some laptops from Alienware or Dell that are always pretty cool too. So I'll give a little bit of perspective of what that looks like by pulling up the website here. So we'll throw that over here. So I'll send out an email, or at least get this information to TAPPS so that they can send out an email to this. But you'll be able to kind of sign up completely free of charge. Register by August or so, and then there's a little bit of pricing going on with some laptops and backpacks and a bunch of really simple stuff that the students might be interested and excited about. So that information will be up there. It's just for League of Legends. It's just over the summer. It's kind of like a jamboree of sorts, a good way to kind of get started up. And as it says here, the matches are going to start at the very end of this month, and you'll have a championship pretty towards the middle of September. So that information will be available, and if anything else, we will be broadcasting that. So if you've got students that are super excited about at least seeing about esports, or maybe somebody from your staff or your school wants to see this in action, you'll be able to do that, before the season itself starts. Yeah, so we'll go back to the webinar here. And that's kind of a very broad idea of what we're up to esports wise. Robbie, if you have any thoughts or things that you think I've missed, or any more little tidbits about your experience that you want to share, or any closing thoughts, happy to get that out, and then we'll hand it to the rest of the TAPPS office to give a handoff on their side.
Sure. Just thank you again for letting me speak here. Just working with Playverse has been incredible since I started working with them. They've really helped getting the program started at my campus and in my district. And just it's been a lot easier than what I've heard from other organizations who are trying to do similar things. And it's just so much easier than trying to organize things on your own, because that can just be a huge headache. And then also being in a Title I school myself, Playverse has always just been very generous about providing passes and just helping support my students, because they just want more students to have the opportunity to play esports. Of course, if anybody wants to contact me, I'm not sure if my contact information is available as a panelist, but if anybody can get that out, please feel free to contact me.
Absolutely, we'll make sure that that information gets out, so that anybody who wants to reach out to either yourself or we've got that TAPPS super coach Ronnie from British International School, we'll make sure that that information is, open and present.
Thanks, James and Robbie.
Thank you, Vienna.
I appreciate y'all taking the time to talk to our coaches today and just kind of share about what the season really looks like from the classroom perspective, and what to do when the kids come to you, when you have that first meeting, just to see what their format could look like for the season. Just want to reiterate the TAPPS website, tapps.biz, clicking on Fine Arts and then eSports will take you to our TAPPS eSports page, where we will update documents as well as contact links for the super coaches there. But then also just when we have our communications, they'll all be shared there. I just want a reminder to the coaches that you need to put your contact information into the Rank 1 system so that you can be included in the communication blasts that we do send out specifically for our TAPPS seasons. So I thank you very much, James and Robbie, for spending time with us today. John, did we have any other questions come in?
No, ma'am. We don't have any other questions. No, I think
Okay.
we're good there.
All right, you can wrap it up with how people can connect with this recording.
Okay, folks. So thank you for being with us today. Again, you're going to get an email tomorrow to the address that you registered with. That'll have a link to this recording. It's taken us a little bit longer to get things out there, just because we have so many webinars this week. Also, I do want to mention that coming out this week, it is coming out the latest podcast the latest episode in our podcast, TAPPS Talk. And it covers eSports. We've got interviews with 3 TAPPS coaches that have started programs. We've also got interviews with staff from Play Versus, who have really been deeply involved with eSports in education. We've even got some comments from students who started playing last year. And we cover all kinds of stuff, from parent reactions to building a team to practice schedules to games to what's it like being at an in-person tournament. All that stuff is in there. It is coming out. It kept getting delayed just because we've had so much chaos this summer, as I hope you all understand. But that is coming out this week, and you can find information on where to listen on tapps.biz/talk. You can also subscribe to us on any podcast app, Apple Podcast, Spotify, anything. Just search for TAPPS Talk and you will find us. With that, I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to close this down. Thank you, James. Thank you, Robbie, for being here. Thank you, Vina and Steve. And you folks enjoy the rest of your day.